Hey up everyone, hope you're all doing well. The UFC have just announced an absolute banger between Jean Silva and Diego Lopes, and will this be too soon for the Brazilian? I say for the Brazilian, but they're actually both Brazilian, which means that UFC Noche, which is for Mexican Independence Day, is going to be headlined by no Mexican, but two Brazilians instead. But that doesn't matter because it's an absolute banger of a fight. But is this too soon for Jean Silva? Now, if we go over to Jean Silva's resume, a lovely record of 16 wins and 2 losses, and only 28 years of age, so he's got plenty of time in the MMA game. However, he hasn't spent much time in the UFC. He joined 2024. He's only been in the UFC for a year and a half, which is crazy to think about how much fucking hype he's been able to generate within that time. Beat Weston Wilson, finished him. Beat Charles Jourdain, finished him. Finished Drew Dober, finished Malsik Bagdasarian, and also finished Bryce Mitchell. Now, out of all of those people, the only real one, what's classed as somewhat of a good one in my opinion, is Bryce Mitchell. Yes, Drew Dober is a good name. Yes, Charles Jourdain's a good name. But let's be honest, the most impressive one there is his last one against Bryce Mitchell, where he was able to just piss all over Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell was seeing demons again because of Jean Silva. And this time around, he's got Diego Lopes, which I think is absolutely mental. I'm going to moan about this fight, but first I've got to gas it up because it is a fucking banger. You're excited. I'm excited. I get all tingly just thinking about this fight and how it's going to fucking play out. But if we go and look at the rankings, let me just move my big fat Steve head. You have the pound for pound rankings. Diego Lopes, number 2. Number 2, Jean Silva, number 11. So this is a big jump for Jean Silva, and I do wonder if this is too soon for the guy because, again, his last win was against Bryce Mitchell, I think he was in the rankings at the time, but he's no longer in the rankings. Is this a bit too soon? You know, maybe Jean Silva versus a Lerone Murphy and Aljo and Arnold Allen. I don't know what Brian Ortega's doing, and I don't know how he's gone up one spot, but a Brian Ortega. I feel like that would have been really sensible for Jean Silva and would have made a ton of sense and just natural progression. But I feel like we see it a lot more nowadays with the UFC where number 11 or 12 or someone outside the top 10 fights someone who's like, you know, within the top 3. It's quite often you see this, and there's a lot of times as well where we see the person jumping up who ends up losing, unfortunately. But will this be the case for Jean Silva? I'm not exactly sure. Another reason why this pisses me off, by the way, is the fact that Volkanovski and Yair Rodriguez is pretty much going to be a thing now because Movsar's booked up with Aaron Pico. Max Holloway's at 155. Ilya's at 155. Lopez is fighting. It's just fought Volk and is now fighting Jean Silva. So, yes, we're getting Yair Rodriguez and Volkanovski, which, you know, we all really want that one, don't we, boys? It wasn't like we all wanted Diego Lopes and Yair Rodriguez. Nah. Who would want that? That wouldn't make any sense. Really? You want that? That's ridiculous. But at least we're still getting a banger fight for UFC Noche. I actually really like the fight. 5 rounds was chaotic. Gonna be a fucking bloodbath. I can't wait. Now we look at who the favorite is. Jean Silva. Jean Silva is that favorite. Minus 185. What? Don't get me wrong, I don't know who's going to win this one. If I had to put money on it, I'm going with Diego Lopes because he's more proven. He is still really good. I think he's late 20s himself. I would go with the guy who's got more experience and is also really good at the same time. Jean Silva, I'm not counting him out whatsoever, but I am really baffled that he is the favorite for this one. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I find it quite baffling, and I do think this may be too soon for Jean Silva. I think a win over Diego Lopes is massive, but if he gets a win over Diego Lopes, I feel like he's going to be stuck anyway, because shouldn't Movsar be getting the next title shot? Yes, he's matched up against Aaron Pico, but regardless, it's just like, won't it be Movsar who gets that title shot next? Unless the UFC really want to, you know, do Movsar dirty and give Jean Silva the title shot, which would be fucking wild. But I really am intrigued to see how Jean Silva gets on in this one because, again, yes, he's got some good ones, but it's nothing crazy. I mean, the Kevin Valios one's going to age really well in all fairness. But regardless, I just think this might be too soon for Jean Silva. When we actually go to, like, Diego Lopes, yeah, he was getting some, like, he's 30, not long since turned 30. I feel like Diego Lopes, it was a bit different with him because, yes, he was kind of fast-tracked to an extent, but I don't know, I felt like it was a bit more subtle with Diego Lopes. You know, he beat Gavin Tucker. He beats Pat Sabatini, who's aged quite well recently. If you watched his win over, forgot his fucking name, Joe Anderson Brito, that's the one. Beat Sadiq Youssef, finished him. Just went on this crazy finishing streak, in a sense kind of similar to Jean Silva. Beat Danige on very short notice, beat the piss out of Brian Ortega, and then went on to fight Volkanovski, and you know, did trouble. Volkanovski dropped him in instances, well, in one instance, and obviously he lost to Movsar, and even with losing to Movsar, that's great experience to take, especially on short notice. I feel like it was a bit different with Diego Lopes, in my opinion, but I can't wait for this fight. I wasn't expecting it. I really was hoping they'll get Diego Lopes and Yair Rodriguez. That hasn't turned out to be the case. At least we're still getting a banger. I'm not going to moan about it too much because, like I say, it's a banger. Who do you guys have winning this one? For me, I think I'm going to go with Diego Lopes, but we don't see this fight till September, so we are a few months out, so I'll be able to process it a bit more, probably watch a few fights from both men, and then give my final prediction on it. But so far out, guys, how do you see this fight playing out? Who do you think wins? What do you think the winner goes on to do, and who they may face next? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video, and like and subscribe.